All right, so I'm joined by Joyce Karam, who's the editor-in-chief of Al Monitor. She's also teaches a class at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and you're a native of Lebanon, and this is what we're going to be speaking about. In this interview, Joyce, it's so great to see you. You're also a dear friend, full disclosure.
So good
Uh,
to see you, Hala.
yeah. President Aoun, the Lebanese president, visited Washington. What did this visit achieve, do you think, for him and for Lebanon?
Well, this was a really significant visit, the first one for a sitting Lebanese president since 2009. The last time I covered a senior Lebanese leader coming to the White House was Saad al-Hariri in 2011. He went
Mhm.
in as a prime minister. He stepped out as an ex-prime minister because Hezbollah then just dissolved the government. So for
Mhm.
Joseph Aoun to score a meeting with Donald Trump without compromising on, a peace agreement with Israel or meeting with Netanyahu was a big deal for the Lebanese. But you bring up a big point. What were the tangibles? Not much. Not much. Some support for the Lebanese army, promises for help in the reconstruction, a
Mhm.
possible conference in Paris. Um, the the President Trump's his decision to lift the ban on U.S. airlines flying to Lebanon was symbolically important. But are United Airlines and Delta gonna fly to Lebanon anytime soon?
We know Middle East Airlines probably will if they get the authorization because they fly regardless, it seems like.
They fly, Middle East Airlines flies through anything. It's the war zone
Yeah.
airline if you want to get anywhere. So, kudos to
Your
them.
friendly war zone airline. But the thing is that President Aoun is the president of Lebanon, but Hezbollah obviously is not a party to these discussions. And the ceasefire is being broken by both sides, but also Israel is occupying, demolishing entire villages, occupying large parts of southern Lebanon with no intention of leaving. And it seems like the president of Lebanon did not managed to convince the US President Donald Trump to put enough pressure on Netanyahu for the Israeli military to withdraw. Is that fair to say?
That's extremely accurate. It's fair. The problem that this Lebanese president has is he knows his options are limited. He
Mhm.
doesn't have enough leverage internally to pressure Hezbollah. He doesn't have enough leverage externally to pressure Israel. So the
Mhm.
best he was able to get now is these things that are called the pilot zones, where Israel withdraws from, one town, two towns, and then the Lebanese army would come in. But this war has been so different. It's just entire villages, entire towns have been razed or gone
Mhm.
in the south. People have nowhere to come back to. And there doesn't seem to be any inclination or will on the part of the Israeli government to withdraw now. So what Joseph Aoun was trying to get from the Americans, at least, faced limited withdrawal. The news this morning is not good. The ceasefire is being broken by both sides. So Lebanon, continues to be at this in the middle of the regional quagmire, if you
Yeah.
want, or the regional tit for tat between Iran, the US, and Israel. And it's very, very hard to see Lebanon break out of that without a larger agreement.
Well, Iran is saying, I mean, the new supreme leader of Iran tweeted or posted on X that he called for an absolute unconditional, let me read the exact word for word, unconditional termination of Israel's attacks on Lebanon. And this is amid reports of renewed diplomacy between the sides. So I wonder if this is a card Iran will play in order to achieve that, and whether or not that's going to put enough pressure then on Netanyahu via the White House to pull out more of southern Lebanon.
The Iranians, for decades now, they're trying to use Lebanon as leverage in their own talks with the United States. The problem here is the Lebanese government has been telling them over and over again, We actually don't want that. We can handle our own talks, but their biggest instrument, their biggest leverage is Hezbollah. So Mujtaba Khamenei's letter just says bluntly, Hezbollah is part of Iran's strategic defense and modus operandi
Mhm.
regionally and against Israel. And this is where Lebanon feels stuck. They can't break with Iran because of Hezbollah, and at the same time they can't get Iran to help them push Hezbollah out. This war started Hala on March 2nd because Hezbollah decided, why not? Where Iran is under attack, we're gonna go fire missiles across the border.
Mhm.
And Israel completely
Yeah.
used this opportunity to just wipe out villages and occupy big part of the south.
But I think what you're describing is interesting because the Lebanese people I speak with, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but also feel very conflicted because obviously, on the one hand, they don't want their country destroyed by Israel, especially after what it's done in Gaza, what has been described by so many institutions and experts as a genocide there. They don't want that happening in Lebanon. They also don't want a state within a state, which is Hezbollah, which is allied and financed by external actors. So, where does that leave ordinary Lebanese people now as they watch this unfold in their country?
I mean, it's the story of the last few years in Lebanon is just extremely tragic. We've had the economic collapse in 2018, 2019, then we've had the port
Mhm.
explosion, then we had successive wars with Israel. It's just as if Beirut cannot catch a break. And people, I'm sure you speak to, I speak to, are just fatigued. They just tired of this perpetual state of just economic depression and just conflict.
Mhm.
So completely agree with you. There is not much, appetite to, oh my God, let's go sign a peace treaty with Israel. I want to go dance in Haifa and Tel Aviv. That's not the Lebanese thinking. At the same time, they just want a breathing room. They
Yeah.
want their state. They want their army to be able to defend them, to take control of a land that they took back in 2000 and have now lost again. So this is where the Lebanese are. It's neither a full peace with Israel, but it's also neither a full war with Israel that Hezbollah is,
But
is waging.
But I mean, for people who don't know Lebanon, I mean, it's a very weak central government. It's a very weak national army. And if the dream of vision is you want the central government representative of all the country's sects to have a strong central authority and central army and no paramilitaries and no militia associated and financed by outside actors, we're very far from that. I mean, it seems almost as if I can understand why some people would feel despair at this point.
No, for sure. I mean, if we go back to the 70s and the saying that went, Lebanon's strength is in its weakness. The fact that no one group can dominate
Yeah.
and Lebanon sort of can survive with a strong open economy, but not a strong army. That whole paradigm collapsed in the Civil War. And we're seeing now, a different mindset that we do need a strong army in Lebanon. That's why
Yeah.
the US support for the army, other support, British, French support is important. But, it's been decades in the making that Hezbollah and other armed groups have mushroomed in the country, and there is no strategy, unifying strategy to deal with it. You take anything to Lebanon, and there is no consensus over it. There is no
Mm.
consensus how we view our history. There is no consensus how we view figures like Bashir Jmeir or Hassan Nasrallah. The divide is so deep in the country that you have to start from a place where there is consensus. Right now, Joseph Aoun's message was, I do have consensus on the state taking over South Lebanon.
Mhm.
But the way to achieve that is still very far out.
Let's get back to today's situation and what's happening between Israel and Hezbollah. And the video and the images I see coming out of southern Lebanon are so devastating. Sometimes I have trouble figuring out if I'm looking at Gaza or southern Lebanon. And these controlled demolitions of entire villages are really, really shocking. And though there are violations on both sides, the amount of destruction, firepower exercised by the Israeli military is, I mean, does it compare to what happened in 2006, or is it more?
I think it's the same doctrine of 2006, whereas let's go destroy everything and that'll be our deterrent. And we've
Mhm.
seen that happen in Dahye in
Yeah,
2006. That whole area of Beirut was flattened. We've seen with the destruction of infrastructure, power plants, bridges in 2006. But the scale of devastation now, it's immense. It's you look
mhm.
at Bint Jbeil, it's not there. You
And
look at some areas of Nabatieh, they're not there.
sure, and it's not just Hezbollah towns, it's Christian villages. It's
These are Lebanese. These are Lebanese towns. These are even there's no such thing as, I keep reading, oh, the Hezbollah stronghold, the Hezbollah town, the Hezbollah this. These are Lebanese people.
yeah,
The refugees that are scattered all over Lebanon, these are Lebanese citizens. Many of these are civilians. These are their hometowns. They
yeah,
grew
yeah,
up there and now they have nowhere to return to. So this is just it's an oversimplification, and
yeah,
it's honestly insulting for the tragedy itself and for what's happening to describe the destruction. Oh, this is
yeah.
Hezbollah areas that we cleared out.
And I'm glad
No,
you
it's not.
corrected. I'm glad you corrected me on that because quite often I cover Syria much more closely than I cover Lebanon. I mean, I cover both, but oftentimes people will ask me, well, what sect lived in this part of town and what sect lived in this part of town? And your first instinct is to say, well, it doesn't really matter. Those were civilians whose homes were demolished. So I'm glad you said that and you corrected me on that.
It's
But
terrible. I mean, the
yeah,
town
yeah,
I
it's
come
a
to,
million people in
Kafr
Lebanon.
now has the town I come from. It's sure it's a Christian town, but it has Sunnis that live nearby.
Yeah.
It has now Shia refugees, and they're welcome. When we were refugees and went to Syria, we were not
Mhm.
looked at as, oh, these are Christian refugees and these are affiliates of this militia. This is
Yeah.
a humanitarian tragedy, and it's about time we just address it like that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right to say that. But that being said, we are really in a situation now where I don't see what's the exit here for this. I mean, how do we end this? Because so long as you have a Netanyahu government with his coalition partners who view any front as essentially open for bulldozing, demolition, the demolitions of entire villages, and by the way, it's happening in Syria as well, not just Lebanon, Gaza. Now we're seeing the West Bank, some threats to exercise that military power there and invasions there. So what's the exit here? Is there one for Lebanon?
Well, and I don't know if I agree that it's a Netanyahu problem per se. I don't know if we get a different government in Israel that this will change. If we get somebody like Gadi Eisenkot, he's the father of the Dahi doctrine.
Yeah,
If you get somebody as Naftali Bennett, he's also very hawkish on Hezbollah. So
yeah,
it's TBD, to be determined what happens in the election and what kind of government is formed. The only way out, and you pointed to that, is U.S. pressure.
yeah.
Like
But
the
they're
one
not
we saw
exercising
in the
pressure on that.
80s.
They're not exercising pressure on Netanyahu to withdraw from southern Lebanon or to withdraw from Syria. The only moment where you felt Trump put pressure on Netanyahu was when they bombed central Damascus and Qatar. That was also a bit of a red line there, but that was it. I mean, the bombing has to be literally taking place in the center of a capital for Trump to put any kind of pressure on Netanyahu to dial it back.
Yes, at the same time, I mean, this is unsustainable. It's just the situation that the US found itself now with Iran. You have to get into an agreement, and that agreement will most likely include Lebanon, also for Israel. And if they want any end of hostilities agreement with Lebanon, they're
Mhm.
gonna have to just stop the bombardment. Is that going to happen anytime soon? Unlikely before the U.S. election. But for Joseph Aoun, for the Lebanese government, they're saying we're not willing to sign anything until we get commitments of an Israeli withdrawal.
Okay,
And
and
I know this administration, they do want an agreement. They do want a photo op on the White House lawn. It's no longer a lawn now; it's rose
I think it's
garden. But
paved
it is,
in gold.
but like they do want to achieve that.
Yeah.
So, and
But
the
yes, but I
lessons
mean,
of
we've
the
seen Joyce, we've seen photo ops on White House lawns go completely sideways more than once. It's a photo op. It is what it is. Hezbollah ultimately is the military power in southern Lebanon. They are finding ways to restock, to continue to fight. And Trump keeps floating this idea that is terrifying Syrians that Shara, President Shara, the new president of Syria, should go fight Hezbollah in Lebanon. I mean, let me tell you, like the last thing Syria needs is to go start fighting wars in Lebanon. We know what that got them the last time, or got the country of
And
Lebanon.
I mentioned the Lebanese cannot agree on anything, but they all agree on that this is a bad idea.
The
This is just
Syrians all
not.
agree this is a bad idea. No one thinks this is a good idea. Find me one person.
This
I don't know. And Shara
the
keeps trying to
precedent
kind of
of
tap
this
dance.
is.
He keeps trying to tap dance around the answer. Like he's
But
just
this,
saying
this is
platitudes.
typical. This is typical Trump. He just gets attached to an idea like the Riviera in Gaza, and he wouldn't want to walk it back. And the more you ask him about it, he knows it's a bad idea. He knows it's not pragmatic. It's not going to happen. But
Yeah,
he's not going to walk it back. They do want Syrian help on the border
sure.
with arms smuggling, with Captagon smuggling. But as you mentioned, I mean, Sharak can barely get control of his own border with Israel. That now looks very much Israel is doing what it does in the West Bank in Syria. It's just taking more
Yeah.
land. It's doing these incursions, and it's just utilizing the state of weakened central governments in both Lebanon and Syria.
As you said, Shara is having trouble even controlling his own forces when there are sectarian tensions. It happened in Sueda and Latakia. It almost completely degenerated in Aleppo with the SDF and the Kurds. Thankfully, that kind of ended pretty quickly. But it really seems, first of all, just regionally from a sectarian perspective, to go fight a Shiite group in Lebanon, if you're the new Sunni leader of Syria, is a disaster. But also, even strategically, operationally, there isn't the capacity to do this.
I mean, the history of the Syrian army in Lebanon is just not a good one. It's, we've lived under Syrian occupation. We've seen how, the Assad army operated in Lebanon, and nobody wants to relive that dark chapter again. So, give me a break. If you want to help Lebanon, if you want a force to help Lebanon, there are talks. The Italians, the French are talking about, a larger force in the south that would help implementation of, any agreement that would be reached. But getting the Syrians into Lebanon, especially, in Shiite areas, it's just, it's not the way to go. I can't see any scenario where any Lebanese government would accept that.
Sorry, I have to drink while we're talking because it's 500 degrees here. And unlike the US, we don't have air conditioning. And
Well,
it's not the land of air conditioning, ice makers, and clothes dryers.
Well, I mean, at least you have other things going on for you in London. So,
Yes,
so
that's
we'll
very
we'll
true.
drink here too.
So let me ask you one last thing then. If you look at kind of, I mean, one thing I keep hearing also from some, I hear this often from some Lebanese, this notion somehow that the help has to come from the outside, that the financing for the army has to come from the outside, that help for the economy has to come from the outside, that diplomacy has to be kind of uh, negotiated from the outside. When Lebanon, should it be more of an organic kind of effort that comes from within, if you if you get my question?
I
And
mean,
is that possible?
ideally, we all like organic. Organic is good. Organic is nice. It's good for you, but Lebanon now, it's divided over everything. So this is a government, Nawaf Salam, Joseph Aoun, they're in the center. These are centrist, these are
Mhm.
serious people that want to make a change. So there is an opportunity to just to drive an internal process that would bring the Lebanese together, but you do need the help of the external because the environment we're operating in Beirut is not just about Lebanon. This war started because Iran was attacked.
Yeah,
This any normalization with Israel, any peace agreement will have to have, blessing from Saudi Arabia, blessing from big Arab states, because Lebanon would need the economic help, would need the political cover. For example, Yasser Arafat couldn't sign a peace agreement in 2000 because he didn't have enough regional support. So
yeah.
we swim in that regional aquarium, and it's very hard to see Lebanon operating on its own autonomously. We would love that, but it's just not there yet.
Okay, Joyce, thanks so much.
Thank you. We've made it.